Majority of the time with anxiety, we experience these sorts of racing thoughts, what feels like your mind just spinning out of control. You're thinking about way too much at once. But when that's happening, majority of the time, at least what I found in my own life, in my own experience, is that you're really thinking about 2 or 3 things max. And it feels like a ton. But if you actually sat down in that moment and said, okay, what am I thinking about? You're going to be able to go, okay, boom, and that's it. Okay, let's get straight to it then. I'm not even going to explain the process for how I did this painting because you know it by now. If you've watched episode 5 and 6, explains the whole thing, and I'm going to be having a guide, like I said, and I think both videos anyway. As I paint in this video, I'm going to just be discussing some stuff that like been on my mind, stuff that I'm like really trying to process myself, I guess, but like stuff that I'd like to be able to process with other people. So I'm gonna just talk. If you got thoughts of your own, maybe leave them in the comment section. We can have a little discussion, a little Socratic stuff going on. What I'm gonna talk about today is probably gonna resonate with the anxiety community very well. Personally, I don't have the worst anxiety by any means. I probably wouldn't even say at this point in my life that I suffer very much from it at all. But there are people very dear to me who do struggle with anxiety still, like as an everyday occurrence almost. And so I thought I would just speak about that for a little bit. Now let me be clear, this isn't like I've been critical of some like celebrities and stuff, I guess, like for kind of making mental illness and stuff like anxiety and depression, bipolar disorder, like a part of their brand. I think that's gross. Shout out Meech on Mars, and I know like he's definitely not a fake about this, but I feel like he definitely has made it part of his brand, and this is definitely not like shade of any sort. It's just like kind of an observation. So I just want to be clear, like this is not the start of me taking this on as like a public like stunt type of thing, or like to get people on my bandwagon who also support this, or to be like, if you don't support me, you must love depression. Come on now. It's literally just like I'm in my room, I'm talking because I feel like I can and I want to. And so if you're watching this video, then you're listening, and if you're not, then you're not. And I'm really like unfazed either way. Appreciate you for watching this video, but if you're not, you got stuff to do. Like go do your stuff. You got plenty to worry about. So I'm just gonna give 2 of my biggest tips for dealing with anxiety. Before I give those though, just make sure you like this video, please, because why not? Also subscribe to this channel because also why not? Just help me out, why not? That's like my attitude in making the video, so I think you can fairly have a similar attitude in liking the video. Why not? Alright, last clarification, and that is that the kind of anxiety that I'm talking about dealing with isn't necessarily as much in like anxiety attacks. It's more so grounded in the like day-to-day feelings of anxiety and like the increased pulse and like the sweaty palms kind of, and just like the on edge kind of anxiety that then usually leads to some sort of panic attack. But like I'm not talking about those panicking moments. So with that said, let's get to the first one. The absolute best piece of advice that I can give in dealing with this sort of day-to-day everyday anxiety is to establish routine. And that's really grounded in something that I've heard from my therapist/counselor at a point in my life, but it wasn't to this extent. So here we go. Establish routine in a way that gives you familiarity with the world around you. Unexpected things induce anxiety. So the more you can control what's going on around you and enter a rhythm of events that cannot surprise you, cannot become unexpected, the more you can, or at least the more I've been able to control my reactions to these events. Personally, when I was at like the peak of my own struggle, I would have issues falling asleep, and I'll just sit there up like hours on end at night, unable to sleep. And I like tried to figure out a few different ways to cope with that. Some were very unhealthy, some were healthier than others. But ultimately, what's worked now for years is just figuring out a set of motions to go through. And since I'm just talking about bed, I'm talking about like a nighttime routine. Like figure out something that's predictable in your head, something that your mind cannot be anxious about because it's so routinized and rhythmic and like embedded in how you behave as a person that like it's just a part of who you are. There's nothing to be anxious about. What this does is it can double as like 2 things. The first is just that it doesn't allow you to become anxious, But the other side is that after dealing with a long day of anxiety inducing things, it's a really great way that just centers you and like brings you right back here to the center where you need to be, to just be like a functioning, happy, healthy human being. And I guess thirdly, it lets you sleep if that's an issue you're having. So for myself, some examples of my routine is just having like a set time to start getting ready for bed every night. And that with that time is like, no matter what you're doing, when you get to that point, that's the point of the day where you're just like, hands off, I'm gonna just go. I'm gonna just start getting ready for bed. That gets a little difficult on the weekends when people want to do stuff and you want to stay up and out or whatever, but like that's up to you. If you can get around the fluctuations in your sleep schedule and go to bed at 9:30 on Thursday and 3 a.m. on Friday and still be fine, okay, I'm not gonna judge you. I couldn't. So I kind of compromised on like, I'd start getting ready for bed around 9:30 on the weekdays, and then weekends I would just try to be asleep before midnight. And I felt like that was a good window of time where it didn't disrupt my sleep schedule too much. But then it's like, once you get to that consistent time each night to get ready for bed, then what do you do with that time? And that's where the routine really comes in. Literally make a list of things that you have to accomplish every single night, starting with like brush your teeth or shower or whatever you do before bed. Make that list though and follow it the same exact way every single night. If you're having severe sleep problems, one thing that I think I can recommend, I don't know that I really should, but I'm going to, is valerian root tea. It tastes iffy, you know, it's an okay-ish taste, not really great, but it works very well in putting you to sleep and in producing like the melatonin you need in order to sleep. It also has a reverse tolerance, so if you take it for the first time, it probably won't work very well. Cocoa butter right there to start lathering up, like stuff like that. Just any part of your routine that makes you feel good, anything that contributes to your health, your happiness, your like sense of peace. All of that, just lay it out before bed, what you need to do. And I think that's probably one of the best ways that I've been able to control my reactions to things and make sure that I'm responding to the world in healthy, positive ways. My second tip, and it's a lot more of a personalized sort of tip, is to make lists. Write down every thought that you have when it happens and make lists whenever you need to. Most of the time my mind works in lists, so that's why I say list. But whatever thoughts you're having, make that list, write down that thought, and then assess it. And what I mean by assess it is figure out what you need to do with that thought right now. Or if it doesn't pertain to right now and it's something that you need to just not think about right now. Majority of the time with anxiety, we experience these sorts of racing thoughts, what feels like your mind just spinning out of control. You're thinking about way too much at once. But when that's happening, majority of the time, at least what I found in my own life, in my own experience, is that you're really thinking about 2 or 3 things max, and it feels like a ton. But if you actually sat down in that moment and said, okay, what am I thinking about? You're gonna be able to go, okay, boom, and that's it. So get into the habit of, when you're not having these racing thoughts and these panic attacks, writing down what you're thinking and being able to take what's going on up here and translate it to a piece of paper or a notes app or whatever you might use. For sort of scatterbrain kind of people, writing down your thoughts and making lists is actually a great way to organize your mind and stop losing track of things, honestly. I think that's one of the biggest things that came with that point in my life where I was disrupted so much by these racing thoughts, was that I would just forget things. Like I'd have so much that I felt like I was thinking about that the important stuff would just be boom, gone. So writing down these thoughts as you have them, like, oh, I have a test tomorrow, write that down. And that's one less thing that you have to continue thinking about because now it's in the spot. If you know that tomorrow you've got to do laundry and you've got to go get lunch with so-and-so, and then you want to read later that night, and you have a deadline for a video you're working on. Write all 5 of those things down, put them in a bullet point or a numerical list or whatever you got to do to not forget them and then to not have to think about them constantly. For both of these tips, the common theme is just finding ways to take the unexpectedness out of life, and not in any sort of like boring, sheltering way, but just in a manageable way, figuring out how to manage your life and what you want to do day to day in a way that makes sense to you and doesn't create more stress than you already have to deal with, just as being a human in the world right now, especially. So with that said, I'm gonna head out. Again, make sure you like this video. Make sure you leave a comment. We can discuss some of this stuff. Like if you're dealing with anxiety, what's been working for you lately? And if you haven't found anything, like what in this video might work for you? I don't know, just think about it. Just see what's going on in your mind. Let me know if you're down. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Jaden Duenas _. I'm gonna have all that linked below. And yeah, I mean, that's it. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. I appreciate every minute that you guys actually do watch, because it's kind of rare that people would actually watch a full video end to end. So if you are watching this right now, shout out you. Thank you very much. Again, make sure you check out these paintings here. They're all available online on my website. That's jd-originals.com. You can also find them on my shop Instagram. And in both of those places, you can actually buy it if you like. So go ahead, do that.